Call the meeting to order if we could, please. Roll call.
Mr. Ruiz.
Here.
Mrs. Geiger.
Here.
Mrs. Edwards. Mr. Benson.
Here.
Ms. Vetter.
Here.
Good morning, everybody. You want to do grants? You want to start?
Sure.
Back over.
Go through some points real quick. We've been busy working on the HEAL grant. Most recently, we had a request from DOH to develop a cash or an expenditure plan. I received approval yesterday on the template proposed for use. We'll be working with our other county staff in addressing that and returning that initial plan, which will need to be updated monthly through December. The August report also went in. We're pending approval from DOH on that, on the HEAL grant. We've been busy working on the radio interoperability project with the Office for Emergency Management. We'll be reviewing the RFPs that have come back concerning that project. We are researching a funding opportunity that comes out of the FCC. It's called their Healthcare Fund. Discussions, very early discussions with the hospital as well as some other potential players to develop a project for the expansion of broadband via perhaps a telemedicine project. We're going to be meeting with DPW and SASD in planning to discuss furthering the NIPA financing for the Government Center HVAC project. That meeting will be taking place on September 23rd. We also have proposed a meeting with the County Clerk's Office and the DA's office to discuss a records management project for submission under the Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund that's available through the New York State Education Department State Archives. We have returned the RBOG Transportation Plan Agreement that's been fully executed and returned to USDA. So we're pending the fully executed agreement on that. I believe planning has initiated action and development of a RFP with purchasing. We continue to write various funding opportunity notifications and continue the Electrical Licensing Board responsibilities and also meeting with legislators at their request.
Questions for Art? Thanks, Art. Angela's excused as we know she had a death in the family last weekend. Ira.
Good morning. The report this month I've given you a copy of. The sales tax, after 2 payments in September, we are down almost $600,000 from last year. If you recall, we started out the year, the first couple of months, continuing the trend we had last year, which was in a positive direction. And we started going down, and we came back a little. We were down by 300,000 or 400,000, went down to about 2, and now since then, however, have been steadily going down again. So every payment for the past 2 or 3 months has been in the negative. The September payments probably reflect sales tax in as late as part of July, and we'll see the rest of the summer next month. But I hear a lot of talk about how good the summer was here for a lot of retailers, but it isn't reflected so far here in the sales tax report.
Is it a trend statewide or is it just?
Yes, it's a trend in most of the state. There's some counties upstate that you wouldn't normally expect to be doing as well as they are, but in the positive. But there's a number of counties. We're not the only one. We're significantly down. The mortgage tax, on the other hand, has been up all year and continues to be up. And we hear a lot of talk about the resurgence of the home industry, and people are buying and selling and mortgaging, and it seems to be reflected somewhat here. Room tax is about even. It's down slightly, so we'll have a better idea in a couple of months. And that's pretty much it. We have some bond payments coming up. Not too bad this month. Next month we've got over $800,000 we've got to come up with. That's it.
Good. Questions for Ira? Okay. MIS?
Nothing of super significance except for the fact that we continue to deploy virtual desktops. We just moved on to Liberty this past Monday. Doing DFS now. going to move on to public health and then ACC after that. And then there are numerous upgrade and integration projects for several software packages and new initiatives between community services, the adult care center again, just day-to-day operations.
Two resolutions. The first one is the monthly budget modification. Motion, Gene. Second. I'll second it. Any discussion? Questions for Josh? All in favor? Any opposed?
5-0.
The second resolution is to apportion the mortgage tax to the towns. Motion moved by Gene, second by Kitty. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
5-0.
Talking with Josh kind of about the budget timeline, it appears he's should be ready to file sometime in the middle to latter part of October. So what we thought is to have set up 3 finance meetings for our departmental discussions. Thursday the 31st from 9 to 11. The first Thursday in November at 10:15, which is a regular meeting day, but we have some time that we could devote to that. And then the regular finance meeting on the 14th. So that would give us about 6 hours to get a quick start on it, and still plenty of time that if we needed to have additional throughout the month of November, we could.
Public hearings.
Any of the public hearing dates?
Tuesday, December 10th at 5:30.
Which is Tuesday night.
And then December 19th at 1:30.
Which, that one we could talk about if we wanted to have something earlier.
Are you gonna
That's the
send
day
those
before the
dates out?
budget's
Hmm?
due.
You send those dates out?
Yeah, I'll send them out.
Yeah.
And via email.
And the budget meetings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should just meeting notices, so, but I tried to keep them on Thursday, so it was days when everybody was,
But for practical purposes, if we have one the day before the budget's due, what purpose does that serve? If you wanna do,
We have a public hearing. It's not a management and budget. It's a public hearing. We're required by law to have one in the evening and one during the day.
the day before the budget's due is my question about the timing of it. Isn't it due the 20th?
It's no later than.
Yeah, no later than the
The
20th.
19th is the Thursday, but
That's the full
20th is
board
the
meeting.
Friday.
That's the
So that
full
would be your
board
full
meeting.
board meeting day.
The 19th. We always have the day public hearing on the full
The
board
day before the budget's due. All right.
we can talk about that, I'll have that earlier. I mean, we'll see what the reaction is. We have plenty of time to move these if there's
God bless you.
a need.
Exactly. That was,
Did you say
No,
November
last year
2nd?
was at 4:30.
November 7th, it's a Thursday, it's a meeting day.
Okay, it's not election day.
No, Thursday the 7th is our regular
Okay,
scheduled committee
it's
meeting.
like election day to have it. the
No,
same
no,
day.
no,
election day is the
Okay.
5th.
Okay.
We're closed election day.
All right,
Josh, you had a couple things you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I'll have a more detailed budget update next month where staff's kind of busy working on the budget, the 14 budget currently. The biggest things obviously is our reporters are tracking the sales tax, but there's some other revenues that we have that should, when contingent, that should be able to offset that decline. And then on the expense side, the biggest thing at this point is the prisoner outboarding. As of yesterday, there was 37 outboarded. Then depending on where they're going, that can cost the county anywhere from $100,000 to about $120,000 a month, depending on the rates that we're sending the prisoners to. Again, it's something that can be accommodated through the contingent account through the end of the year. Obviously, that spikes a lot more. It could become problematic, but with contingent and other expense, places where we're not spending money should have enough to offset that increase. And then for 14, we're in the process of wrapping up departmental budgets. We have a couple more to go. And we'll have the budget filed no later than the 21st of October. Some of the big things we're waiting on health insurance right now. We have budgeted at about 4.6%. We'll get another notice at the end of September, beginning of October with an updated figure. Hopefully that either stays flat or goes down, and we can adjust the departmental budgets even more. And obviously tracking, we'll be working with Ira on the certification of revenues at some point before I have to file. So those are the kind of main high-level pieces other than working with the departments on all their requests.
can I break, so the health insurance and pension, where are we at with the pension smoothing? There were two plans, and so 4.6 immediately means that we're above the tax cap, which was reduced from 2% to 1.4 or something like that this year.
Yeah, and the tax cap, in the past couple of years, the way the law is written, it's 2%, the lesser of 2% or CPI. The past couple of years, it was 2% because CPI had been running higher than the 2%, but for this coming up year, it's CPI or inflation is under the 2%. So your first figure is it's 1.667%. So basically, you lost a third of a percent off of the 2%. And then the other factor that is unique to each county is the growth factor. And I think adding those two together, our tax cap is 1.95% this year. So we're actually, even with the growth factor underneath the 2%, which, and I think that roughly, I mean, we're still working because we have to factor in the workers' comp chargeback and the other chargebacks that that go to the towns later in the year, but that's gonna be approximately $1.1 million. It may change a little bit up or down depending on the chargeback issue, but it's gonna be in that neighborhood of about 1.1 million.
So that's 2% right there, if you're figuring 500,000 is 1%, right?
Well, that would be your 1.95% equates to about 1.1 million.
Oh, okay, sorry. So then we have,
So each
pension.
percent is gonna be approximately 550 or so, 550,000.
and then are we at 3% with the pension smoothing?
Well, the health insurance increase, I mean, high level numbers, the health insurance bill with actives and retirees approximates $20 million. So just say it's 4%. I mean, that's $800,000 gross. I mean, that will get reduced somewhat with revenues in DFS and some of the granting agencies, but you're on the order of $700,000 to $800,000 for health insurance if that doesn't change. And pension, we had participated in the well, I'll call it the older amortization program. There's now a new amortization program that got enacted at the same time as, or around the same time as the most recent state budget. Our budgeted figure for pension last year was about $7 million. If we did the old amortization, our budget would have to be about $8 million. If you do the new amortization program, it'd be about 7.5. So that's some of the discussions that staff will have to have with your body going forward and how that interplays with the tax increase.
So these two pension smoothing numbers, you can opt in or out every year, or you're locked in once you
The
get
one
it?
we're in now, you can opt in or out. You don't have to participate in any given year. The new one, once you're in, you're in. You can't get out.
Forever.
My understanding is. And we can have more conversation and more in-depth discussion about that as we go forward. But yeah, it's a more permanent program. The one we're in now, I think even sunsets after 5 years. There's no ability to participate in that. It was basically there because they knew the rates were going to increase as a result of the recession, so they put this 5-year program in that you could choose to pay less and amortize the balance for, I think, a 5-year period. So then this would be about the third or fourth year
That
that
would,
it's
So
been
there's 2
available.
years.
well, at some
two
point, we have to
years
pay the
left.
piper. We can't keep amortizing forever.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
because-
This old program, there will be no ability to under the old program at some point. So you'd revert back to. But I think the thinking was from the controller in the state was that the rates after 5 years should normalize and get back down to historic norms. And they have the new tiers 5 and 6, which have built-in lower rates already. So I think it was a bridge because of the recession and them enacting new tiers that the rates will, in their eyes, will come down to some more manageable level at the end of those 5 years.
Well, you probably figured out by now what road I'm going down, which is that if you're looking at a minimum of 4.6 on the health insurance, the pension smoothing, and the workers' comp, what's the ballpark figure that is coming down in terms of, the increase, without any other factors?
Factors.
Thank you, Cindy.
Right.
Just the hard,
I mean, I don't have firm numbers on where I'm likely to submit. I mean,
a
ballpark,
snapshot for today.
without getting specifics, it will be in the single digits without using fund balance.
Say that again?
It will be in the single digits
Could you
without
be
using
more
fund
vague?
balance.
Again, we
Beyond that, I don't rather not get into any
9.99.
particulars because I still have a month to refine and work on.
Yeah.
And without using any fund balance, you would likely have to override the cap.
Well, that part we've already started to.
Without cutting programs or services. To what degree, I don't have a firm number yet, but I would feel more comfortable next month getting into
Okay.
more particulars.
But thanks for stepping out on thin ice with this.
First, I just wanted to thank the chairman and Josh and his management team for advancing the submission of the tentative budget to October 21st. I think it seems like only 3 weeks, but I think it's going to make our job a lot easier and give us a little more breathing room as we deliberate the tentative budget. So I think it's a very positive step, and I wanted to commend you for that. And I'll also back up your, to give you some breathing room to come up with the final number and where the budget's gonna land. I know you're working through it with the department, so I think we know there are external factors that, influence the bottom line that are beyond our control, and we'll have to deal with those over the next several weeks, but do all you can to keep it.
We're in much better shape this year at this time of the year than we were last year at this time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So that I feel a little bit better about. I got a letter, actually, I put it in everybody's box, and it was a letter from a constituent saying, have we looked at all of these other revenue increasing sources? Like, have we looked at?
Was that the one from Dan Clark?
Yes.
Because I had gotten that over a week ago.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
at that.
I'm just saying, I think we had all
I
gotten
put it
that.
in everybody's box.
Yeah.
Thanks, Annie. And so, how many of those, did you get a copy of that letter, John?
I believe so. I don't recall everything that was on there. Some of them were at the old adding $1 on to Bethel Woodfield. That was the letter I think you were referring to.
That's exactly
I don't
the
recall
letter.
everything on there, but I think some of them had been looked at.
We need to enter that letter formally, right, into the public record.
It will
For
be,
it to
yeah, on September 19th.
And then maybe we could talk about it then, but the question I had reading that letter was how many of those avenues had been explored and how many had not?
Let me revisit the letter.
Okay, because that, if there's some option that we haven't,
Even if we visited it before, I believe
it's worth it again.
it's worth a revisit.
What is your view? Or you haven't seen the letter, right?
I saw the newspaper, actually.
Oh, it was, who
It was a letter
printed
to
it?
the editor.
Yeah.
So we just got
Last week,
one.
I saw it.
I
Thank you
think-
for whichever newspaper printed it.
Some of those recommendations we had touched on before, but I don't know into what depth. Some of them include fees on certain entertainment, venues. But as far as, like Alan says, the external factors that are beyond our control, if we can focus in these budget meetings on the factors that are in our control. And I know that we've talked about, program cuts, and we've discussed those in committee. I think that, the discussion about, in DFS, Health and Family Division, and some of the things that we're looking at there, if you can kind of focus on measures to take in our control and kind of prioritize those, because I know the ACC has been discussed in different programs like that, so I'd like to kind of see a breakdown of the impacts of some of those priorities once we identify them. And I don't exactly know what the timeline is on that, but if we start off in these budget meetings with some of those priorities.
Yeah, the format, just as the format will be basically the same as last year. We may add some different pages, graphs, charts, whatever, but the departmental format will be the same. So you'll see program by program, the staff associated, the costs associated with each program, and if there's things beyond that you need, we could certainly give you more, but it'll have all that detail.
But I think each department has, we've had discussions in different departments, and, being chair of Health and Family, I've certainly had them in mind. So I think if we could prioritize from the different departments, instead of just looking, as a whole, then we can kind of concentrate on what we could do with the priorities.
Okay.
There would just add, I think one of the reasons we're in a little better shape going into this budget year is because of the difficult decisions we made last year with some of the budget cuts, and, the scrutiny of filling positions that we've been doing. So I think that's put us in a better financial position. So while there were difficult decisions to make, I do think they were the right decisions.
I agree with Alan, because I think last year the decisions that we made didn't increase, the whole picture by much at all. I don't know the exact percentage, but
Well, one of the things that we did was we did a kind of a first brush on the outside agencies and outside contracts. And I think the second brush needs to look at deliverables, because we've given these agencies and contractors time. They know what's coming down the pipe, and if the deliverables aren't delivered, then, what's happened to that contractual obligation. We haven't done that before.
we have looked at contracts, but I think
Deliverables is what we need to start with.
we need to look at certain specifications coming through contracts that maybe are not being carried forth. The contract could be renegotiated to bring in a savings to the county as well. So I think being with the vast number of contracts that the county has, I think that behooves us as well to take a look at that, the specifications, and make sure that we're getting what we contracted for.
I think that's also an issue for your committee, right, where all the government contracts lie.
Here's the question, where are they, how are they functioning, how much are they spending, and on what?
Public comment?
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn?
Move.
Jane, Kelly.